Good afternoon. Welcome to our daily press briefing online and live on EBS. We are today, Tuesday, 13th of April. So following yesterday's meeting of heads of cabinet, I can confirm to you the agenda for the college meeting of tomorrow. The college will adopt a strategy to tackle organized crime and a strategy on combating trafficking in human beings. This package will be presented to you along with the readout of the college meeting by Vice President Margaritis Schinas and Commissioner Ylva Johansson. Now let me invite Balázs to join me on the podium for an announcement on our support to the Great Lakes region in Africa.
Effectivement, bonjour. Donc l'Union européenne annonce 54,5 millions d'euros d'aide humanitaire en faveur de la région des Grands Lacs en Afrique. Cette aide importante sera consacrée aux personnes les plus vulnérables touchées par les catastrophes naturelles ou d'origine humaine, les épidémies et les déplacements dans la région des Grands Lacs. Plus précisément, cette aide répondra aux besoins des plus vulnérables en République démocratique du Congo, en République du Congo et au Burundi, et soutiendra les réfugiés burundais en RDC, au Rwanda et en Tanzanie. Plus de 80% des fonds seront alloués à l'aide humanitaire en RDC. Un montant de 1,5 million d'euros est alloué à la préparation aux catastrophes en République du Congo et un montant de 9 millions d'euros est alloué au Burundi et à la réponse régionale aux réfugiés burundais.
Merci beaucoup, Balázs. Cela clôture nos annonces pour aujourd'hui. Nous pouvons passer à vos questions et je passe la parole à Oliver.
Hi, hello. Hope it works. Yes. My question concerns the spread of the virus and especially of the Brazilian variant. I think Alain raised the question already yesterday, but I'd be interested in your outlook on this problem. There are more and more medical professionals who implore European governments to actually impose flight bans from Brazil because they say if this virus comes here, it's going to hit us just as we're trying to tackle with the third wave. So can you give us an outlook of your thinking of this problem? What should be done about it? Whether member states should coordinate to impose strict European-wide quarantines for everyone coming from Brazil and so forth and so forth. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me first turn to Stéphane and then perhaps to Adalbert on this question. Stéphane.
Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you very much, Oliver, for this question. Maybe I could give a little bit more concrete elements than what I said yesterday, in particular with regard to the work of the HERA incubator, which we presented in February, and which focuses, among other things, on the rapid detection of new variants, a swift adaptation of the vaccines to better tackle these variants, to ensure there's a European clinical trials network, and I'll come back to that in a second, facilitate the regulatory approval procedures for vaccines and upscaling vaccine production. So these are very important, I would say, objectives of HERA Incubator. And what I would like to stress in this regard as well is that under the HERA Incubator, we have launched a clinical tests network, which we call Vaccelerate, which ensures that the vaccine trial sites are available across the European Union to test vaccines. So there's really a network of these sites which allows to bring together the information, better follow up, better monitor the different variants and how to handle it. In this regard, I also refer to guidance that has been issued by our colleagues from the European Medicines Agency on the clinical requirements for adapting vaccines to new variants. And then, of course, there is also the information that we shared with you yesterday regarding the new contract that we would like to establish to be better prepared for 22 and 23 as well, including to better address variants and the different challenges which are ahead of us. So there's lots of work ongoing in this area to make sure that we are well prepared to tackle the challenge of these variants. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me pass the floor to Adalbert.
Thank you. And when it comes to the specific question of the management of external borders in the context of the emergence of the variants, I would just recall, also in line with what I was saying yesterday, that the Commission took the emergence of these variants earlier this year extremely seriously, and based on scientific advice, we proposed on the 25th of January stricter measures regarding the restriction on non-essential travel to the EU. And the Council adopted these measures on the 2nd of February, so also very quickly. And the idea there is precisely, as you mentioned, Oliver, the idea of having a stronger European approach to the management of travelers coming in from these regions that are specifically affected by the variants. So there the idea is that travel should only remain permitted for essential reasons, and there is a list of these essential reasons in the Council recommendation. However, the travelers who do come in should be subject to much stricter measures than before when they come from these regions affected by the variants. So in particular, we are talking about compulsory quarantine and or, of course, stronger testing. And we very much encourage member states to put in place these stricter measures. Now, this is a Council recommendation, and moreover, it concerns health measures, which are rather firmly within the competence of the member states, and therefore we, member states, do not have the legal obligation to do so. However, we, as I said, encourage member states very strongly to follow this Council recommendation that they have all agreed.
Thank you. Let us stay on health-related issues, and I pass the floor to David.
Oui, merci Eric et bonjour. J'aurais une question à propos des vaccins chinois, des deux vaccins chinois. On a lu sur la presse, et pas seulement sur la presse, qui ont une efficacité assez inférieure par rapport aux vaccins qui sont utilisés dans la stratégie de l'Union européenne. Mais ils sont utilisés aussi dans un État membre, l'Hongrie. Et selon certains experts, il y a un risque, évidemment, de contribuer à la diffusion du virus, en quelque sorte, ou de ne pas stopper la diffusion de virus en utilisant ces vaccins. Je voulais savoir, premièrement, si vous êtes en contact avec l'Hongrie sur ce problème. Et deuxième question, si cela implique des changements par rapport à votre proposition sur le certificat vert digital, vu que vous laissez aux États membres la liberté, entre guillemets, d'accepter des vaccins qui ne sont pas reconnus par l'EMA. Merci.
Merci. Stéphane.
Merci beaucoup David. Il y a plusieurs choses que je voudrais dire là-dessus. La première chose, c'est qu'évidemment, nous ne pouvons pas nous prononcer sur le vaccin chinois. Ce que je tiens à souligner cependant, c'est qu'il est, et c'était un principe que nous avons souligné dès le début de notre stratégie de vaccin, qu'il est absolument primordial, fondamental, essentiel d'assurer la sûreté et l'efficacité de nos vaccins. Et c'est pour cette raison-là, nous avons toujours insisté, dans le cadre de notre stratégie conjointe sur les vaccins, que tous les vaccins qui font partie de notre portefeuille soient soumis à l'Agence européenne des médicaments, qui font une analyse en profondeur des aspects de sûreté et efficacité, et ça reste un élément extrêmement important. Comme tu le sais aussi, David, le vaccin chinois ne fait pas partie de notre portefeuille de vaccins. Les États membres ont la possibilité de prendre ou d'assurer ou de se mettre d'accord sur des contrats avec les laboratoires qui développent des vaccins qui ne tombent pas dans notre portefeuille. Et donc ça tombe alors sous la responsabilité des États membres de faire le suivi nécessaire. En ce qui nous concerne, comme je viens de le dire, ce qui est important, c'est que la sûreté et l'efficacité de ce vaccin soient garanties, d'où l'importance de l'intervention de l'EMA. Merci.
David, donc pour répondre directement à ta question, il n'y a pas proposition de la Commission de modifier sa proposition qui est en cours de discussion, comme tu le sais, dans les enceintes législatives. Je crois qu'il est important de noter que dès lors que des États membres auraient des doutes sur l'efficacité de tel ou tel vaccin, il leur serait donc évidemment tout à fait possible de ne pas reconnaître ce vaccin dans le cadre du certificat. Et dans le cadre des discussions en cours au sein des instances législatives, il est tout à fait possible évidemment d'aborder les questions que tu as soulevées. Je vois que tu as néanmoins une question de suivi. Je t'en prie. Ah, tu as reposé ta main. Voilà. Merci. Je passe la parole à Verena.
Hi, I hope you can hear me, even though my camera is out at the moment. I wanted to ask you about a report by the German broadcaster ZDF saying that Slovakia has negotiated a treaty with the vaccine reseller on ordering about 1 million doses of BioNTech Pfizer from that reseller rather than through the EU, because the orders via Brussels are taking too long. I wonder if you know about this deal and if you have any comment on this. Thank you.
Thank you, Verena. Stéphane.
Thank you very much, Verena. I have no further information on this, and obviously we cannot comment on comments or reports which are made in the media. I would invite you to also contact the Slovak authorities to have more information about what is reported on. In any case, as far as we are concerned, and I think this is something that we have underlined on numerous occasions in the press room, is the fact that our EU vaccine strategy is a joint strategy based on cooperation between member states and the Commission. That's also the strength of our vaccine strategy. It means also that the strategy does not allow parallel negotiations, parallel contracts with vaccine producers who are producing a vaccine that's part of our EU vaccines portfolio. So this important rule remains unchanged, of course. Thank you.
Thank you. We move to Mose.
I would also like to come back to the previous question by David about, let's say, recognition and use of vaccines, which are not part of the Commission's portfolio, as Stefan said. And that is related to what you said also, Eric, yourself, about the current discussions in the Council about the green vaccination certificates. Because I wonder if the Council will arrive at a decision to use those certificates as a kind of vaccination passports. I suppose that will be based on the recognition of vaccines, and otherwise there would be no point in it. So is there a possibility in that case that if a country has decided to say to import and use a vaccine which has not been approved by EMA, that will not be recognized in the framework of a so-called vaccination passport? Thank you.
Mose, let me repeat. The proposal of the Commission, perhaps I don't understand your question correctly, but the proposal of the Commission is very clear. It is based on an automatic recognition of vaccination certificates that relate to those that have been recognized by EMA. And for the other vaccines, it leaves it up to member states to decide whether they recognize a vaccine which has not been approved by EMA, but in that case, it stipulates that there must be no discrimination between its own citizens and those of other EU member states. So I think that the proposal that the Commission has made is crystal clear in that regard. Are there other questions for us today on health matters? That does not seem to be the case. Are there questions for us on other issues? Yes. Nikolai.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, I have a migration-related issue. So apparently Denmark is the only country in the EU to revoke residency rights of Syrians. And I was wondering, does the European Commission support this type of policy? And second, is Syria, and in particular Damascus, in your view, a safe enough place to return Syrians to? Thank you.
Thank you, Nikolai. Adalbert will answer your question. Could I ask you, if possible, of course you're under no obligation, but it makes things a bit livelier for us as well, and for your colleagues from the media, to switch on your camera, unless, of course, you have a technical issue. It's more pleasant for us all, I think, if we can actually see each other. It gives the midday briefing more, or rather less of a virtual feel. Adalbert.
Thank you, Nikolai. I'm going to, unfortunately, have to give a pretty general answer to your question, given that every return decision, or any, in fact, decision on asylum as well in the EU, is taken individually by member states on the basis of European law. In the case of Denmark, the situation is a little bit more complex, given that Denmark also has an opt-out from the EU justice and home affairs policies, and therefore the legal status of EU legal instruments that concern migration is a little bit complex to explain when it comes to Denmark. However, maybe just as a general principle, of course, every return decision has to follow the due process that is set out in the law, and also in the case of Denmark has to, in any case, respect all fundamental rights that are set out in the Charter of Fundamental Rights in the EU. However, as I said, it would be the national authorities that will take these decisions. As to what concerns the general situation in Syria, perhaps I could refer to the fact that the European Asylum Support Office is our agency that deals with looking at the situation in the countries of origin of asylum seekers, and the Asylum Support Office regularly publishes country of origin information, which contains research on what is happening in different countries of origin. And I would perhaps invite you to have a look at on the website of EASO to see what information there is about Syria. And this information is, of course, available to national authorities to support them in taking individual decisions.
Thank you. Now, I would ask you to only keep your hand raised if you have a question on migration for the moment, or home affairs for Adalbert. Luis, you have a question? No? I see no other questions then on migration and home affairs. Thank you very much. And therefore, I pass the floor to Luis.
Bonjour, Eric. C'est une question du système judiciaire espagnol. 3 sur 4 associations judiciaires espagnoles ont adressé une lettre à la Commission, et dans cette lettre, ils ont alerté qu'il y a un risque de violation de l'état de droit pour les dernières réformes du pouvoir judiciaire. Ils disent que l'indépendance judiciaire en Espagne n'est pas garantie, que le gouvernement espagnol refuse de manière répétée la recommandation de la Commission. Donc, qu'est-ce que vous dites par rapport à cette lettre, et si vous êtes préoccupé pour le fait que 3 sur 4 associations judiciaires qui représentent 2500 juges espagnols adressent cette lettre à la Commission? Merci.
Merci beaucoup, Louis. C'est une question pour Christian.
Oui, bonjour. Merci, Louis, pour cette question. Oui, en effet, nous avons reçu cette lettre des juges espagnols que nous étudierons attentivement et y répondrons dans le moindre délai. Nous avons déjà exprimé une position très claire dans le contexte de notre rapport l'état des droits sur ce sujet. Selon ce rapport, il est important d'aborder la question du Conseil de la magistrature et en même temps de veiller à ce que le Conseil de la magistrature ne soit pas perçu vulnérable à la politisation. Nous continuons de suivre la situation de près, également dans le contexte du rapport sur l'état des droits cette année, qui est actuellement en préparation. Dans le cadre de ces préparations, la Commission organise des visites du pays qui sont en cours en ce moment dans tous les États membres. Au cours de ces visites, nous rencontrons les principales parties prenantes, y compris les associations de juges, pour discuter de l'évolution de l'état de droit La visite en Espagne aura lieu à la fin du mois d'avril et les conclusions de la visite seront reflétées dans le rapport sur l'état des droits 2021. Nous entendrons également directement auprès des représentants des juges dans le contexte de ces rencontres en préparation du rapport. Nous rappelons à nouveau l'importance de consulter toutes les parties prenantes concernées et la Commission de Venise du Conseil de l'Europe sur toutes les réformes judiciaires importantes.
Merci beaucoup. Y a-t-il d'autres questions pour Christiane sur les questions état de droit aujourd'hui? Merci de ne garder votre main levée que si c'est le cas. Pablo, une question sur ce sujet.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Pablo. Welcome back.
Thank you very much. Yes, it's a short follow-up. I was just wondering if the visit to Spain at the end of the month of April was already scheduled or was rescheduled and anticipated after the letter that you received this week. It's a quite easy question. And the second one, so there is no link at all within this visit on the letter. So it's just in the framework of it was pre-established, and so there's not really a direct link between those both things. Thank you.
Christian.
Thank you, Pablo. Yes, I was indeed referring to the virtual, actually this year, virtual country visits that are taking place in the context of the preparation of the rule of law report. So these were indeed already foreseen, and of course it is important for us to hear from all relevant stakeholders, and we will also, as I mentioned, hear directly from the judges and the representatives.
Thank you, Christian. I see no further questions on the rule of law, and so I go back to those of you who had raised your hand previously, and first among those was Augustine, if I noted down well. Augustine, another issue.
Yes.
Hi.
Hello. Yes, it's on foreign policy, I guess. There were reports in the Balkan media yesterday about apparently non-paper sent by the Slovenian Prime Minister Janša to President of the European Council, Charles Michel, when he apparently suggests the changes of the borders in order to settle once for all the process of disintegration of former Yugoslavia. So the first question is, did the office of President Michel share this information with you? And what is the position of European Union on the ideas to redraw the borders of the states of the Western Balkans, since lately, in last year, the messages from you have been very mixed, from supporting the idea, calling them dangerous ideas, to rejecting them. So can you remind us what is the position of EU on these issues? Thank you.
Thank you, Augustine. Your question makes a lot of assumptions about what we would have or not have received. I pass the floor to Peter to clarify.
Hi, good afternoon. And indeed, I mean, I hope you can see me because the system shows me something strange. Yeah. Okay. So good afternoon, Augustine. Thank you for the questions. Well, indeed, I mean, we are not aware about any such non-paper. We noticed the media reports, but for more specific details, you would need to ask the Council or the Slovenian partners. We definitely have not received, we have not seen, and we are not aware of any such paper. And that's why I will not be commenting also on some assumed subject of this non-paper, which you pointed out as being the borders. I mean, on the borders, I can say only the only issue, the EU's position is very clear when it comes to Western Balkan partners. The issue of borders, there is nothing that needs to be changed on that. We should work towards regional cooperation, reconciliation, and this is the idea and this is the logic of the accession process, to try to solve all the issues that might be between the countries in a process that doesn't go into dangerous areas and sticks to the EU law and EU principles.
Thank you. Are there other questions on foreign affairs for Peter today? That does not seem to be the case, so I go back to Mose, who had a question on another subject.
giving me the floor again. Well, this might look a kind of odd question, but there was a press release yesterday concerning Cyprus when the Commission decided to grant so-called protected destination of origin to this famous Cypriot cheese, hamulu. And I'm asking because I've written about the Cyprus issue before, so I wonder how fast do you expect that this recognition will be implemented on both sides in Cyprus, because it obviously requires some food safety inspections and controls. And also, I mean, do you think it will have some kind of positive impact on the forthcoming United Nations-led negotiations between two sides later this month, I think? Thank you.
As a Frenchman, I'm sure that I can confirm that cheese is an extremely important element in international negotiations. But joke apart, I give the floor to Miriam.
Yes, thank you. So indeed, the regulation was adopted yesterday and it will be entering into force 20 days after publication. But the actual application is delayed until the 1st of October. And the main reason for this is to allow the nominated control body, Bureau Veritas, time to conclude the legal formalities with the Cypriot government and put in place a control plan. This will ensure definitely that the producers from both sides of the green line can be certified as PDO compliant from the date of the application, and to avoid a gap in the availability of halloumi helim on the market. And this delay will also give, incidentally, non-Cypriot producers time to sell the products that they have in stocks and they are not compliant with halloumi. So that's why we have, indeed, as you rightly point out, some time to prepare for a proper implementation.
Peter, do you want to add any element on cheese diplomacy?
Not only that the decision was welcomed by the HRVP, because this is an important part in dealing with the issues which are related to Cyprus.
Thank you for reporting from a difficult zone, apparently, this morning. Now, let us continue on foreign affairs-related issues. Joachim, is your question... no, sorry, it's Hans. Hans, is your question related to foreign affairs? If so, go ahead.
Hans or Hans Joachim, both are good. Actually, it is foreign policy related. It's on the UK, if that's okay to switch over to that foreign policy topic. Yeah.
The UK is foreign policy, yes.
Indeed, yeah. So my question is on the talks on the Northern Ireland border checks issue. Yesterday, there were comments from the UK that there's still huge divergences. So I would like to get the latest readout from your side on how the European Commission sees these talks progressing. And I would also like to know on the issue of the legal action. If I'm rightly informed, this week was actually the deadline for the UK to get back and for the EU then to also take further steps on this legal action. And it was reported that the European Commission has delayed its taking the next legal steps because of these ongoing talks. So yeah, I would like to get a comment from you on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dan.
Hi, Hans, and thanks very much for your question. I would just start off in terms of giving some context. You know that we've stated on a number of occasions that we stand ready to find swift, pragmatic solutions within the framework of the protocol in Ireland and Northern Ireland. You'll be aware that there are technical level meetings ongoing, and they've been ongoing now for a few days and a few weeks at this stage. Depending on the progress, of course, there may be a political level meeting between Vice President Šefčovič and David Frost at some point soon. I cannot confirm exactly when at this point in time, but stay in touch and I'll do my best to fill you in at that moment in time. On the letter of formal notice, yes, the UK had until the middle of the month to reply to that. I have no specific comment to make at this point in time. I would just point out that a deadline to reply does not mean that we will automatically take a next step. Of course, these things take time to analyse, and of course, we will do so. But no specific comment to make on the reports that you raised.
Thank you, Dan. Are there other questions on foreign relations for us today? That is not the case, so I open the floor to other issues. Laura.
Good morning. Can you see me?
Yes. Go ahead, Laura.
Okay, great. My question is related to Japan. In 2 years, Japan will dump in the sea 1 ton of contaminated water coming from the Fukushima nuclear plant. I'd like to have an insight of the Commission on this issue since China and South Korea have already adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you. A question for Tim. Tim, I know it's been a long time, but still, I hope you still know how the system works.
Yeah, you see, I was told I had to raise my hand, so somebody forgot that I was part of the system.
That's what happens when Jonathan goes on holiday. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I don't have too much to say on that, but I mean, what I can tell you is that obviously we're aware of the Japanese government's decision, which was taken yesterday, to start releasing water from the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant into the sea from 2023. The Commission would obviously expect that the Japanese government ensures the full safety of any discharge in full compliance with its national and international obligations. We would obviously underline as well the importance of providing full transparency in these kind of procedures, and we will continue to monitor the situation and keep in touch with our Japanese counterparts as appropriate. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Tim. Are there other issues for us today? I do not see any other hand raised, so thank you very much, and we will meet again tomorrow for the college readout. Have a nice afternoon.